Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Henrik86, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Chris Hillman, LA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Flat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Liam Nedrick, Dank, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Tina Baker, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you who support me on Patreon. Now raise the mic on whoever is in Discord and G+, and you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Peach is fine.
Somebody have a cat?
Yes, I got a cat. He's in heat. She's in heat.
Oh, okay.
Everyone
I'm
in California
cats.
is in heat right now. What the heck are you talking about? Hey, Neil.
Hello, Neil.
What's up, Tent Man?
You sound muffled, Neil.
I'm on an iPad. My iPhone is dead.
Do you have a headset or earplugs or whatever with a mic?
I sound muffled. This is much better than my phone.
I know. Right, just doesn't
Let
sound
me see.
muffled.
Let me see my.
It's like
settings.
it's better now. It sounded like he had his phone in his pocket or something.
Actually, I just turned him up.
Oh.
Now we need a sound check. He doesn't talk.
What?
I've just turned you up. Let's just see if that's any better.
Can anybody hear me? Am I coming in clear?
A little
Much better.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you're fine. Compared to before, this is great.
My iPhone is stuck on the icon. It's not shutting off. It's not turning on.
It's stuck on the icon.
Yeah, all I see is the Apple icon. That's it.
Huh. Well, that's probably the core of your problems. Wow, what's new?
Nothing's new. I'm in the same exact situation, apart from more things keep breaking. So,
what now?
Well,
Give me
I'm sure I
an update.
mentioned I'm now in a new seat, right, which is incredibly creaky. I just got a second-hand seat off Facebook to replace the one that I was sat in, but the springs went on. So this will have to be a temporary measure. It's just too noisy. It creaks, which is no good. But my amp, the amp that runs my centre channel, not important for the show, so it's not like and it needs mentioning. But by the same token, it's frustrating. It's just like about 8 months or maybe a year ago, I sent back one of the monos, and then that was it. It's like, oh, that's annoying. One of the monos has died. I need that for the show. And the guy turned it around very quickly, got it back. No fuss, no muss. And then I sent one of the 3 channels, which had been broken for many, many years back, a while later, and just said, don't rush with it, mainly because I hadn't got the money to pay for it. But I was like, don't rush, no rush. It doesn't matter. It's not that important because I've got like an old 30-year-old amp that I could run the rear channels with. This is all irrelevant of the show because how my rears work isn't really important to how the show runs. Anyway, I sent that back and I'm like, don't rush it. And then the other mono goes. So while one's in for repair, another mono goes. That's where we're up to in terms of the audience knowing my amplifier situation. And then last night, the centre channel one went pop. So I've got 3 identical monos. One runs the left, one runs the centre, one runs the right. And both of the monos for the left and right have recently gone. One about a year ago, one in the last 2 weeks. And I've just literally on Thursday of last week got back the mono. So I've now got 2 monos to run my left and right, which is what I run the show with. And it's just by coincidence, the stereo is now working. But now the AV system that my wife uses for with the kids and the movies, that's not working because the centre channel's gone pop.
Oh,
so
gosh.
she's like, comes back with a DVD yesterday. I don't know, some pile of crap. Let's have a look what it's called. Hold on. Ferdinand. There we go. Ferdinand. She puts it in. I turn all the amps on, or the ones I've got. Turn them on. And I'm like, is it just me or is that cow's mouth moving and nothing's coming out? She's like, no, maybe he's just mumbling to himself. Right? So I'm like, no, there's something definitely wrong. So I go down, turn the centre channel off, turn it on again. Nothing. The relays don't click. I'm like, oh, this is fucked, isn't it? I cannot believe this. I feel like literally every single one of my chord amps has all gone wrong. I'm going to say it at the same time, but that's not true. One of them went wrong a few months back. But still, within the space of a year, all of them, every one of them has had to go back for repair within the space of a year. And 3 of them within the space of 2 weeks. Like, I've only got 4 of them. 3 of them have gone back within 2 weeks. All gone pop at the same time.
That is so... I mean, that happens a lot with so many things. It happens to me on the property with, say, water pipes. Okay, one breaks, right? And the next thing you know, there's 3 other ones that break right after that. But they're totally different locations. It's like, what's going on over here? It's weird how things like that happen. In like series, you know?
Jesus, there was the most enormous thundercracker. She said, I could hardly hear you. It wasn't loud enough to trigger the gate in my mic, but it was loud enough for me to shit myself. Just an enormous flash of lightning, and then obviously whatever that was, it was within half a mile, because literally almost immediately after the flash of light, there was a massive, great big roll of thunder. Sorry, I was just completely distracted from what you said, and I didn't hear it.
Actually, I know my voice resonates, but I've never had that as a reply. I mean, it's pretty cool.
It was pretty godly. You should have heard it.
Come on, man. I had to take advantage of that one on the heels of You Can't Hear Me in the Thunderclap game.
Well, that's how it was. I'm just saying how it was.
No, I hear you. My grandkids jump up when it happens here. Yeah, I came home yesterday, Sunday, of course, and I'm saying, all right, just relax, take the day off finally. Been working hard all week. And I come to the front driveway and there's a broken sprinkler pipe, water's gushing everywhere. I go, what the heck? Like, who would... That's off the road. How can that pipe break? And so something fell, hit something else, broke the pipe. So that was one pipe that led to 2 pipes. And that was about 4 hours of work because you got to drain. You got to go shut off all the tanks on top of the property to stop the water flow. Well, it takes hours for that water to drain. So anyway, long story short, it happens in series.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. Right, I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to finish off my coffee that I started 5 minutes ago.
All right, go ahead. So, Neil, what's new with you, bud?
My wife was just reading something to me from Google about how Earth got started. It's funny.
How Earth got started?
Planetary science.
This is what... Oh, through a science thing?
Yeah, it's something that comes up on Google. What is it? It says surprise.
So they know how Earth got started, the scientists?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to hear what they say.
It's a lot of stuff. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, let's pinpoint it down. Was it someone with intelligence creating it or not?
Okay, it says the moon and Earth may be more different than previously thought, challenging existing models for how the moon formed. A new study finds Earth originated about 4.5 billion years ago, and previous research suggested that the moon arose a short time after that. It arose. How do you like that?
I love
the
it.
past decades, the prevailing explanation for the moon's origin was that it resulted from the collision of 2 protoplanets or embryonic worlds. One of those was the newborn Earth, and the other was a Mars-sized rock nicknamed Thea, after the mother of the moon in Greek myth. Once the dust settled, two bodies were left, Earth and the moon.
Hang on. Is this a crime scene novel or what?
It sounds like it. Listen to this. New study co-author Zachary Sharp, a planetary scientist at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, told Space.com. The giant impact hypothesis seemed to explain many details about Earth and the moon, such as the large size of the moon compared with Earth, and the rates of rotation of the two bodies. However, in the past 20 or so years, evidence has emerged to challenge that hypothesis and suggest a multitude of alternatives. And that's that. What is a planetary scientist?
Hang on. They can't find Hillary's 33,000 emails from a few years ago, but they know what happened 4.5 billion years ago to the T.
Yeah. What's a planetary scientist?
I was going to say that was the only bit I picked up on. Planetary scientist? What?
Yeah. University of New Mexico.
That's a big into question course.
Yeah, I want to know how they got a hypothesis and how they figured it out. How did they science it?
Well, Neil, you've been on the shows on a regular basis, so you know they can't even show us curve, and yet they got a course called Planetary Sciences and a whole division just for the no curve, curveless Earth that should be curved.
To answer Neil's question, they didn't. They just used the words that he actually identifying things like hypotheses in the method of science to lend credence to a pseudoscience claim of lights in the sky. There is no actual hypothesis being used. This isn't science. They just use those words when making their pseudoscience claims.
A lot of it's been coming on Google too. All the time stuff is popping up about space and how it started. Crazy,
well,
right?
The thing I picked up from what you read, and I'll get this out of the way quickly, is like it pulled at the sci-fi heartstrings of me. Like I'm like, oh my goodness, that like it made me want to play like Mass Effect 2, a sci-fi like space opera or something like that, because it sounded so fantastical and so. And this is what they're appealing to. They're appealing to the fantasies and imaginations of man. And it's pretty effective, I have to say.
Well, that they've had many, many years to condition with all the movies and jargon.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're playing space games for the good part of your adolescence, and you watch space movies, and then they come out with this, it's all going to fit.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes. Like we got conditioned into it, but
yep,
there's still something to like certain fables, because like even like, let's say if I'm like more of a sci-fi guy, right? I still enjoy like the high fantasy of like something like Lord of the Rings, right? Even though I'm not conditioned for that in a sense, or am I?
Well, think of what you're saying. This is about what Neil read, right? And you're bringing in an entertainment value of fantasy, and you're equating it to what they're saying outside of entertainment. They're saying this is what actually took place. So one is fantasy for entertainment, which we all like, at least most people do, because it's just fun to check out and have a good time, but you don't take it for real. And then you got these people saying this is how it all is. And then you say, wait a minute, that's not supported by reality, because you can't have gas pressure without a container next to open vacuum of space. So you got to explain that one. And there's no Earth-based Coriolis, or else.
Right, but you're drifting off the thing we were talking about. The thing is that the fantasies, the lovely stories they make so lovely in movies and video games and such, the fact that they're saying it's reality, it's like making people's dreams come true in a sense when you think about it.
Well, I wasn't drifting off. That's my whole point. I'm using logic at everything that comes at me. I'm using my senses. I'm using discernment. If something comes at me and it's obvious fantasy, then I've discerned it as, hey, this is perhaps for entertainment. This is just for us to have a fun time. If something comes at me, but it's poised as science, or we know better, pseudoscience, and then I'm going to be more critical because I know they're trying to steal a thought or plant a thought that's not backed up by reality. So where's my logic coming from? My logic has always been there. That's why Chocolate and I are so much alike. We never believed this crap. He said, no, we're not spinning. We always argued with our teachers and everything else because we always said, well, if we're spinning, how come I don't feel it? But if this, then why not that? If people would use that kind of assessment of things, then they can value something for what it is. Pure fantasy for entertainment versus someone trying to hijack your belief system.
Yeah, I've covered this in terms of the overlap with what they claim is quote-unquote science, actually just defined moments earlier between me and Neil as pseudoscience, and the suspension of disbelief. If you can get people to suspend disbelief about Superman flying around a planet, it's far easier to convince them of the mundane nature of the planet, because they've suspended disbelief in something that they think is next-level fantasy, a man flying around the globe, without recognising that that is also programming them. They're also suspending disbelief about being in a place they can't be, which is space, looking down on a thing they can't see, which is a globe Earth. That's stepped over. It's called the suspension of disbelief. How far you push that suspension is a fine line that you have to get right first before you actually push a narrative onto people. So you get it right in the movies, see what people will actually tolerate, what they'll accept. Then if that's acceptable to them in the movie, or unnoted, then it's obviously worthy of mundane programming with boring nonsense from the ISS and various other forms of the same exact thing, a suspension of disbelief. You can't be in that place, but you can imagine it. You can suspend disbelief enough to believe that it's real.
Right.
When I was learning performing arts, one of the people who used to direct for Star Trek, Stephen Burkoff his name was, would explain that you can alienate your audience, which is to say that if you overstep that line between the suspension of disbelief and alienation, you will push your audience away from believing what is actually taking place on the stage. They distance themselves from it. Now, obviously, we can define that with us when it comes to the idea that we're living on a spinning ball flying through a vacuum. Obviously, they've overstepped the line for us, we've recognised it, and now they've alienated us from their narrative. Make sense?
Yep.
As soon as my wife reads these things to me, it's like I'm shaking my head because it sounds like such crap.
It's I hear an echo. Mike.
You? It's probably you.
Is it all right to keep talking, Nathan, or is that bad?
No, it's all good. Everything's fine this end.
Okay. When I'm talking to people, especially now with the, like I said, the growth of flat Earth and the arguments and, the finer points of the arguments that we have from this show and others, when they respond to me, it's the same parroting of everything that was taught or was attempted to teach me when I was a kid in the school, where my senses told me something was wrong. Hey, how could that be? Because no, I don't know. Why is that? And so as a kid, you were doing that, and then but you grow up because no one's got another course at school called Flat Earth. So you just kind of bury it because you don't pay attention to it. You just say, well, look, it doesn't make sense to me. Let's move on. Then later in life, you find out, wait a minute, all those things that didn't make sense to me, there was a reason why my body or my mind revolted against those things. And now I'm finding out why. And then you see the whole mess with NASA, how they fake their photography, all the 2015 arguments. And then you come up to these finer point arguments through the logical fallacies that are discovered in people's language when they bring up an argument. So when I'm talking to people, I'm talking grown people, like 50, 60, 70-year-old type of people, not kids. they're just parroting what they've heard through mainstream media and through the academia. And it's so easy to overcome it just by being a student of the show, because you just say, okay, have you thought about this? Oh, yeah, how do you get gas pressure without containment? It's just like such a simple thing. It's awesome. You just wake them up. If anything, they don't have a comeback anymore, and they shut up about making fun of you.
It's the same thing with evolution. I remember learning that because I went to Catholic school, and in one session they're teaching us about God and creation, and then you turn the page and they teach us about evolution. And I remember it just wasn't connecting with me. I'm like, how can this be?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't kosher.
Wasn't kosher. Yeah, I don't understand why we have. I'm sorry.
No, I said, yeah, it wasn't kosher. It wasn't sitting well with me. Neither was the spinning earth. The teacher put water in the bucket and spun it around her head, and the water stood in the bucket, and she said that should settle it. I was like, but it's on the inside. It's not on the outside.
So just a simple fact you noticed.
I did that myself, so I remember being told that at school. And you listen to the explanation, and it didn't sit well with me, and I went home and swung a bucket round. I thought, this makes no sense. It's on the inside. It would fly off. This makes no sense. And it's one of those things that I put on the back burner as a young kid, and then, you know, who'd have known 30-odd years later, you're going to go, holy shit, I remember that as a kid.
Oh, gosh.
Listen, one true thing is you can't fool kids. They know.
But they're also information sponges, so you can just tell them.
Yeah, but there's a difference, I think, in kids. I remember growing up, I mean, vividly. I was the odd one with a few others who joined me within, say, a classroom setting. Everyone complied except for us, this little group. And mostly of us boys, but now and then there'd be a girl too. But I mean, we were kids, and we just say, this is nonsense. You know, what are they trying to throw down our throats here? I mean, we were always challenging and questioning, not being rebellious for evil's sake, but just wanting to say, that's not good enough answer. And you want me to like deposit that as a truth. We weren't thinking that way, but that's what it is. They want to tell us something. They wanted us to just accept it and deposit it as a truth in our core values. But we didn't even know why, but we were resisting because it just didn't make sense. But the rest of the class, let's get on with it. Why are you guys disturbing the teacher? Just say yes. Don't interrupt. You know, that kind of attitude existed.
And now we have flat earth debate to set everything straight.
Yeah, well, we have it, and we're just saying sensible, carefully thought out arguments, and we're seeing what's happening. They're losing at every turn. I mean, the reason I don't watch other shows and spend my whole life on flat earth is because it's over. I started a cooking channel because I got bored. We won. It's so over because they can talk about all their other things. I just want to see curvature. Show me the curvature. You can't show me the curvature. You can show me optical things, optical imagery, all the things that have to do with refraction that works off a flat deck and compression and angular size. I mean, Al Baruni even proves it with him not accounting for refraction. And then his numbers don't work. The horizon is their Earth curve, and it's no longer their leading cowboy in the argument because they can't prove it. There's no Earth curve. So forget S waves and P waves. Forget all these other things. Show me Earth curvature if you want me to believe the Earth is curved.
Do not see the geometric horizon. That's what
It's
they say,
great,
though.
man. It's great to be a flat earther these days because the arguments are so good. You're just so settled in. You know, I really got to thank you, Nathan, and others like Yui and others who have taught it well here, because you're just so relaxed in any debate forum. Okay, look, let's just settle here. I got if I was a gambler, I'd take all the money I have, push it on the table, and say, I'm all in. Show me curvature. Where it's supposed to be based on your radius.
And you'll win because they can't.
It's over. That's what I'm saying. These people, it's boredom now. It's just, it doesn't matter what they come in with. What about this? And what about, gravity and weight of gas? Forget all that. Just show me curvature. If you show me curvature, then all the pictures would be true. But no curvature, then all the pictures are fake because they were taken from a medium they can't be taken from.
By the way, the new conspiracy is the COVID-19, 1 and 9, AI. A is the first letter and I is the ninth letter.
Oh, God.
That's ridiculous. That's nonsense. We know what they're doing. Just leave it where it's at. It's obvious what they're doing.
AI, listen, AI. It's artificial intelligence is taking over.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man and Righteous Force, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Oh, wasn't that
Hello?
enthusiastic from Discord? There might be a few of them on mute. I'll see if I can hustle them off. Oh no, everyone's off mute for the most part.
It's Monday.
Normally Monday's enthusiastic because people have not had it over the weekend. Live debate, that is. Hey, Paul.
Good morning. I'm out walking this morning, so I'm going to go talk Grimmett.
Walking on your own?
No, I got the little one and the wife, or the two little ones and the wife.
Ah, fair enough. Right. Everyone can hear us in Discord. Let's have a few more hellos just before we kick off with housekeeping.
Yeah, good morning. Morning.
Hello.
Perfect. Any signs?
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Hey, Arwin.
Hey.
Hey. Any signs of a physical, geometric, sphere, edge, horizon, formerly known as Earth, curvature?
Not from 17-mile scenic drive in Pebble Beach.
Hey,
Right.
Chocolate.
Ballers always seem to forget, though, so they always still resort back to the old story that the horizon is a physical curvature, even though they can't physically back that up with proof.
Doesn't that change on the hourly, daily basis, though, Arvin, for them?
No, not really. Just the total amount of terrestrial refraction changes over the day.
Oh, so one point it's 10 miles out, another point it's 2 miles out. Is that right?
Yeah. Terrestrial
could-
refraction is wild, man.
How about the physicality of it?
Of the horizon?
Well, I mean, I live on property. I've been through cityscapes. The buildings are still there each time I go there. The physicality doesn't change, and there's no amount of refraction, whether I'm a mile or two away, even 5. It's always the same.
Right.
So where's the Earth curve physicality based on the radius at a 1 foot observer height?
Well, you just have to basically use circumdicular geometry, and then it really all works out. All the angles work out. So
to steal Neil's line, Euclidean me now, aren't you?
No, not Euclidean. If you use Euclidean geometry, then nothing about the globe works.
Good point.
You do use it, though. The geodetic surveyors are using Euclidean geometry after they've presupposed they're on a sphere. So they map out a tangent plane, the tangent bit being the presupposition of a sphere, the plane bit being their utilisation of Euclidean geometry to actually measure it flat.
Yeah, they just don't tell you that they're reverse engineering it from there.
Isn't that called transposing? Basically?
Well, presupposing, so the tangent plane is to presuppose your point, when you're standing perfectly vertical, is actually pointing at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. So if you're in England, you stood off at whatever 45-degree angle, pointing towards the spherical centre. But that tangent that you've drawn is just their starting point to then map out a plane, flat surface, and use Euclidean principles, water levels.
Right.
Yeah, so basically they have a local level or a local plane because everything does work on the plane with Euclidean geometry. And then they say, but if you move, then you got to abandon that local plane and we start a whole new one because we live on a curved sphere. So
Right.
It all works because when they're actually doing it, it's based on a plane. That's the only way it works.
Right, so they transpose the Euclidean measurements onto a circumdicular model. So they basically graph the flatness onto there, use circumdicular geometry to presuppose it is all curved, despite, the Euclidean geometry does show that it is actually flat. And then, they can model it into their globe.
I don't know if that's how they do it exactly. I see it this way, that it's not a sphere. It's impossible for it to be a sphere. And everything works on a flat plane. And so what they've done is they made their disco ball mirror globe with little squares that are plane and flat. And there, as long as you're within that square mirror, it all works. You move, you got trouble. So that's why it's a local level. It's something else somewhere else.
I'm pretty
going
sure
on,
that's
guys?
called transposing. by the
Hey,
way.
Chocolate.
Hey, Chocolate.
Yo. What's going on?
Yo, up and down again. Come on.
We're on the first housekeeping question. We were. They've relinquished their R value. They've told us in no uncertain terms that we cannot see Earth curve geometry. We wouldn't expect to see Earth curve geometry. You cannot see the geometric horizon. The geometric horizon only exists in maths. That's a string of quotes from the globe side in response to the black swan argument. So we might as well go on to that next. Any evidence of the R value?
No, why you expect us to see it? Come on.
No.
No.
Now, terrestrial refraction, which was established by measuring the geometry, which Alberoni didn't do because he didn't know terrestrial refraction existed yet and wanted to probably get there, but You can't measure the geometry like that. So
How would he know if terrestrial refraction existed? If terrestrial refraction requires the R that he was supposed to be measuring?
yeah, exactly.
How the hell does that work?
Because
He was
he
probably
can't.
told that is what he was going to do. He was probably told the Earth is a ball. You're going to measure it. And then when
Yeah.
he came back with the results, it's like, but this doesn't work out. And they were like, no, yeah, we're just going to do it anyway. You
Arwen's
just
right.
proved the Earth is a geometrical globe.
Arwen's right. They
No, the
assumed it was a ball.
Planetary scientists did it.
Yeah, but Arwen said it there. They assumed it was a ball, so no matter what the findings were, it was going to match a sphere of some type. It just happened to match the one he said, but he didn't prove a sphere. He reified it into a sphere. So if I see X miles out one day and the next day it's XYZ miles out, I can make all that work on the sphere if I presuppose a sphere.
Somebody maybe should have told him that he'll never be able to see the geometric horizon, being that there's an atmosphere and you're breathing. So you're going to have to account for refraction no matter what you do.
But they probably, even the ones that were trying to reify the globe in the first place, they might have not even realized that was the case yet. He was out there to test it. Like, does it match a globe? And he came back, well, it's off by, what is it again, 5 degrees? And then they figured out, oh shit, that's too much for the geometry. Yeah. So it has to be refracted or the globe doesn't work, and it must.
Yeah, but Andrew Thomas Young already gave us the refracted number, 3.42 versus 1.22. And based on the Black Swan imagery and the video and the pictures that we have from the Black Swan, it's still well in front of the first oil platform, that Earth curve, that horizon.
Yeah. But we were talking of course, about Alberuni, which is a couple of 100 years before that. So,
right. But my point,
how the geometry was established officially, right?
Right.
That's the starting point. That's where they started out with the geometry. He proved that in order for the supposed globe conspirators to determine there is terrestrial refraction. That's the official story.
Correct. So now, what is the radius of the Earth based on the official story, Arwen? What's my starting point? What's my starting point based on the official story of Alberuni? For the radius, what is the radius of the Earth? It's just a number. What is it?
Anybody else? I don't recall the number.
I got it. 39. 39, almost 4,000, as Chocolate says. Almost 4,000. All right, 3959. According to MLSP 69's pictures and video, the radius of the Earth is now 264,000 miles. Look what happens on that day to your sphere. So I could prove a sphere with any visual picture or, oh, there's the horizon. And there's a land marker or a marker in the ocean, like an oil platform, that's 9.1 miles out, let's say. And the horizon's behind it. So let's just give it a value, 10 miles. Now, we know it's even further than that, but at 10 miles, the Earth's radius is 264,000 miles. Well, that's clearer evaluation than Alberuni on top of a mountain. How come the Earth? How could the Earth change?
That doesn't match.
Duh.
No.
Duh.
Look, the thing is, whether they have their presupposition is based on the circumference of the Earth first, before they're going to derive what the spherical geometry is based on the assumed geometrical horizon. Do you see? So they're always going to fall back to the almost 4,000 miles. And
right.
not on any extreme optical deviation in their supposed calculation.
Right. So if you have the circumference, that's how you get the radius.
Right.
Okay. So
that's
now,
how you presuppose the radius.
Correct. So now they've given us that arbitrary, or in the pseudoscience department, the actual radius, 3959. And we're going to hold them to task on it. We're going to go test it. We're going to go see if it works exactly that way. At a 1 foot observer height, all boats, anything on the water, need to start disappearing bottom up from 1.22 miles at a
Right.
1 foot observer height to match that radius. Does it?
Nope. Black swan.
So then what is the radius of the Earth if the second oil oil platform, say horizon behind is 10 miles, and you still want to believe it's a sphere? Well, now you got a circumference so big it's going to rival just under what the sun is.
Right. At best, we've disproven the radius. So,
No, we've disproven the sphere.
well, that's what you do when you disprove a radius, now don't you?
Well, that was a fun back and forth.
Right.
Can't have geometry if you're dealing with refraction. If you're dealing with geometry, you're dealing with straight lines to physical horizons, which is what Al-Biruni's claimed to be doing, and what the Earth, as a sphere, is claimed to do when it blocks boats and buildings. Now, if you cannot see said geometric physical sphere edge horizon to measure it, then you can't derive an R value, you can't base a presuppositional model on it, and you can't say Earth is a sphere and this physical sphere edge is blocking boats and buildings, here's the maths for it, because you can't see it, and that said sphere edge only exists in the geometric maths, which cannot be seen, cannot be measured, only exists in the maths. So we've debunked the sphere. You're both right. Obviously, debunking the radius leaves you debunking the sphere. It leaves the model untenable. You can debunk by the assertion that you're on a sphere by pointing out that assuming the radius, i.e. assuming you're standing on a sphere with every example you make that claims to prove a sphere, isn't proving a sphere, it's a begging the question fallacy. Now, their rebuttal to that is to say, well, we already know we're on a sphere, so it's perfectly acceptable to utilise this logical fallacy and start with the presupposition that we're on a sphere with this radius value of 3959. The black swan, however, takes that assertion and makes it untenable. You can't have a physical geometric sphere edge horizon if it's 10 times beyond what the physical limitations would be laid down by a physical sphere edge. You don't have one. Earth hasn't got a physical sphere edge for a horizon. The horizon is not a sphere edge. Earth is not a sphere. Any evidence?
Exactly.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Would that be an Earth sphere? Because I think we just disproved that. But
Axial
I don't
rotation,
think
whatever.
the flat Earth is moving or rotating either.
Maybe. You want to present me evidence for it, I'll listen.
Well, there would be a lot of centripetal force at the outer edge of the disk.
Really?
Right?
Didn't your teacher ever swing a bucket round full of water and just say, there you go?
Oh, well, that is if you assume that the entire realm is like in a bucket being slung, and then we have an explanation of gravity. That's like the Mobius ring.
So don't laugh. People still use that as proof.
No, that's
People
not
will
cool.
still say that shit. So
You gotta
it's
listen
not
to
even
the
funny.
Gravity is centripetal force. And
No, you gotta listen to
unfortunately,
the
that does
pre-show.
make no sense on a ball. It would be the inverse of that. It would be a ring. The only way you can keep some kind of seemingly stable centripetal force going.
So we're a bucket,
In a
not a
ring.
sphere. Is that what you're saying?
Hmm?
We're a bucket, not a sphere. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe. Well, this is super hypothetical, not literally. This is otherwise it's going to go into flat Earth
I just-
society type
I
modeling.
just want
but
to know who's swinging
it's either
that bucket.
like a pizza at the bottom of a bucket being constantly slung around by God, or it's a giant ring, which would be very weird. And yeah, that ring is like a wheel spinning around, and that is causing a gravity. Although there would have to be a concavity in one direction for that.
Oh my goodness! What does the handle look like on the bucket?
I don't know. Whatever is good a grip enough for God, you know.
Are we swinging around in Narnia today?
Well, in the pre-show, we discussed the bucket swinging over people's heads, so that's why I left.
Oh, okay.
Well, speaking of Narnia, outer space is fake. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Nope, no evidence for that. So that's another one. Just show it to us. They can't ever show it to us.
Nope.
Well,
There
that would
is
be easy to
containers.
prove, wouldn't it?
If you could do it, I'm sure it would be easy to prove. You can't do it, so it's not. No.
Right. You could just, have a vacuum chamber and sweep the gas up at the bottom.
No.
Yeah, but you need an enclosed container to even show a vacuum chamber.
No, you did you hear what I said? Like gas doesn't do that though.
Say
You're
it again.
If there was a
sarcastically
force
saying,
acting on it, it would be at the bottom of the container.
yeah, you're saying gas go down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls in a fish tank. You're
Yeah, if
sarcastically asserting
right.
Thunderfoot's claim that gas go down, go boom, boom, needs sweeping up at the end. It doesn't.
right, that's if that was true.
It isn't. Gas is unbonded. It fills the availability of volume it has to fill. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space.
Right.
I have a really odd question, by the way, concerning pressures and temperature alterations thereof. Like, technically, certain types of gases could be solidified if the temperature was extremely cold enough. You know, that's a technical possibility. Also, I think it was established that if pressure lowers,
Hold on.
hold on.
Don't go on to your next claim. Wouldn't it be
What?
going through a phase change then? I.e., it's no longer solid. It's no longer a gas then. If it's forming bonds, it's not gas.
I know, but hold on.
What do you mean? Yeah, I know.
No, you're right. Come on, but this is just a weird hypothetical. So
if
it
gas
was
isn't
solid,
gas, hold on. This is the
it
same
would
as
be
Thunderfoot's
cold.
hypothetical. If gas isn't gas, let's bond it together so it behaves differently.
Yes, come on.
No, not yes.
No, it's not
no.
proof. It's not proof.
What do you mean
please.
yes? Yes, you're right. This is so wrong.
Yes, but I want to finish my train of
Isn't-
thought because it's
Oh,
making
go
a
on
lot
then,
of
Armin,
speed.
feel
That's how
free.
they give gas a vector.
Let's let him bond these gas particles together at extremely low temperatures so they do something that gas doesn't do. Go ahead, Darwin.
Right. So it's also established that heat requires at least atmosphere or another physical medium to basically escape, right? That's officially said. So if you put a vacuum chamber before it's a vacuum, if you freeze it up to the extremity and then you evacuate, well, which would be very cold gas, and then externally somehow introduce solidified gas within the vacuum, would it evaporate and turn into liquid and gas again? Or would it stay as is because the heat cannot get to it or cannot escape, so it's going to stay in its same state?
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence for the distance.
Almost had it.
Nope.
I almost got your
On its
gaseous
way.
bouncy balls.
Oh, what do you
you
mean
didn't.
almost? I chopped its head off and then just let you blabber on anyway. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then you ignored it, so I took it as a win.
Oh, I
You're
see.
being merciful.
Oh, my, this isn't even worth replying to was taken as a win, was it?
Yes.
I
It's the
see.
ball
No,
or
that's
win.
fairly standard tactics. Reasonable, fair enough, Arwin.
I thought you were showing mercy.
I just
Yeah,
want
it
to get
was a
through the
super
housekeeping
man-made
questions, actually.
situation anyway, because there's no way that could ever happen in any sort of way in nature, you know. So
See, I didn't need to. Arwin just did it for me. Just because I didn't. I knew he'd do it for me.
Full of piss and vinegar.
I just like to build silly things out of Legos and smash it again.
Fair enough.
Space Legos.
So, someone said something about vinegar?
Oh no, I was saying Arwen, he's full of piss and vinegar today.
Arwin's ace. He's always like this.
No,
Arwin
he's
is basically
arguing both
fantastic.
sides pretty well.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on.
Arwen's mad
I
smart.
was just curious, you know, curious about the properties of physics because, yeah, there's these multiple issues like heat having to transfer through a medium in order to change and all that. And then I just thought, like, could frozen gas basically be trapped in its solid state because the heat could not transfer to it? Is that a physical possibility? I just
Check him out, right? It's just, he's trying to, you think this is going to slip by unnoticed, this frozen gas nonsense?
right. Well, it's still in a frozen state, which means solid, which means it's technically not gas. It would be gas in a natural state. Which
See,
it
there it
would
goes
not
again. I didn't have to say anything, did I? Can we move on? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
There's no evidence at all for what they claim gravity is and how it's caused.
They don't even know really what it is, so they just resort back to old Newtonian models thinking, which basically ignores gas. The whole Newtonian system just ignores gas.
Yeah, but wasn't there a quote? Maybe Chocolate has it handy about Newton saying he wasn't postulating gravity because he found it hard to believe.
No, he used it as a law in his calculations, little g, but he never claimed a hypothesis for gravitation, for the whole planetary thing. But just gravity as a mathematical cornerstone to even out his calculations and his models, yeah, that worked great on Earth for him. As long as he ignored gas.
Gravitas is weight, and he said gravity because back then in English language, gravitas and weight had a correlation, obviously, for him to use that wording. But wasn't it like 100 or 200 years later, somebody else accredited what they said to Newton when Newton never said it?
What?
I mean,
No.
what?
No. Everything he said or disclaimed has been published.
We're going to have to find that quote that Riley showed us, because it says it right there. And then somebody, C.V. Boyce or somebody came later and said something, but Newton never said it. But he made it sound Newton said it.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's not good. And that's printed?
Yeah.
Damn. That's harsh, man.
Chocolate, you got that from Riley somewhere?
What do you mean, the Isaac Newton quote?
Yeah, the one that he stayed away from saying what it was, what it isn't, and then a couple of 100 years later, somebody else said to the current formation of what the word, how they want it to mean. But Sir Isaac
What,
Newton
the one
never
where he
said
said, this is the one reason why I desired you would not describe innate gravity to me?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah, and then was it C.V. Boyce or somebody like that who a couple of 100 years later postulated it and said that's what Newton said when Newton never said it?
That I'm not sure of. I know
I'll get
C.V.
Anthony
Boyce
to-
came up with gravitational constant after that.
Yeah, I'll just get Sleeping Warrior to post it again. How about that?
Now, gravitation. His disclaimer mentions specifically the theory of, the law of gravitation. So
I feign no hypothesis for gravitation. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
Pangea was like the melting top that ended up on one side after the Earth cooled off a little, after Athea probably already smacked into it. And then the island of Pangea basically came afloat, solidified, and then later broke apart in tectonics. And because that is all true, because I said so, it's a proof of the molten iron core.
How is land
Checks out.
moving across land when it's attached to the land? Can someone tell me that? How the hell do the continents move apart from each
Tectonics.
other?
It's tectonics. They have these models.
Tectonic what?
How
Plates?
it all
First of all,
fits.
how you have a plate on a ball? Okay, that's just first of all.
Because
But
it's floating on top
supposed-
of the molten iron.
I could settle this a lot
Okay.
easier. Just say P waves and S waves. That's all you got to say.
Nah.
That's boring because it doesn't mean anything to me.
It doesn't have to. Just have to blurt it out. It's easy.
I don't know. I like the Just So stories more. There's more to latch onto.
P waves and S waves is just so story.
No, it's more like a technical Just So explanation.
What, just so story? With the word technical in front of it, because it's got a machine.
Right. I just like the more, I don't know, visual stories more. Pangea, I think that it's really at the core of the molten iron core. They really fabricated the idea of Pangea starting out that it would solidify on top of the molten iron core. And that's how it started. Right?
I don't know. Who was there to tell us?
NASA? Because they calculated it or something?
They can't keep their story straight or make good videos. There are stars. There are no stars.
Michelle Thaler said that there is no such thing as life, really.
Oh God!
We're complicated rocks. She actually said that.
Yeah, I played it on my show today.
Complicated
Awesome.
rocks. How dare she?
We are complicated rocks. Direct line from her. She said.
Yeah, she also said there's black holes forming all around me.
We are a chemical
Yeah,
reaction that
literally,
became
she's
so
crazy.
complicated that we gained consciousness.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's
That's a
black
crazy
holes
lady.
forming all around you.
Even the guy who was
hear the
interviewing
crazy
her face palmed
voice.
like, what?
That's
It
one
was
crazy
great.
lady. But if she had kids, I bet one's name would be Pebble.
Deeper than what I read this morning.
Heard her when she starts going off about her sex life and all that, and sleeps
Oh,
with all the
Yeah,
wrong
she
people.
falls in
and-
love with everybody.
Yeah,
That's
she's
science.
weird, man.
Oh, who cares? Do we have to talk
Yeah,
about
she's
this? I don't
fucking
care.
Weird.
No, rocks. It's been proven rocks don't have sex life. Come on, we'll move on.
Nice segue.
No, but it's evolved rocks. They
There's
do.
a perfect opportunity for me to segue into retro build
So what
super
is
chat. So
what is solid
It's
as a
not going
rock
away
stand
easy.
complicated rocks and space Legos. Good stuff. There's retro Bill. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Speaking of pseudoscientists, any single viable hypothesis from any field of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well, after that statement from Michelle Thaler, I don't think so ever.
Ugh.
I think that's impossible, right?
Yeah, they're all pseudoscience fields. That's right. Well cottoned on there, Neil.
I would crush her argument in a landslide.
That actually concludes the housekeeping.
I
Excellent
wouldn't
stuff.
crush her with your dick.
Sorry, we
What's
did
that?
have gas pressure without a container. It was the second question, I think, or third.
Did you already do Earth curve?
Yeah, it's always the first question. As this is flat Earth debate, my opener every housekeeping question is any evidence of the physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. Because that's what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned. That's why Black Swan is just the number one, because it actually covers quite a few of the housekeeping questions, right? So how can you have a molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth when the presupposition is the R value? Well, that's the R value and presupposition of a molten iron core covered with the Black Swan, not to mention the fact that you've got the actual Earth curve itself covered with the Black Swan. So, you know, that's going to be it's always going to be number one top debunking of the globe Earth. There is no better way of debunking the assertion that we're standing on a physical sphere. We're not. That's the bottom line, and the Black Swan demonstrates that, because if you were on a sphere with sphere-Earth geometry, it's got physical limitations based on that geometry. As soon as you show the horizon, and it's on screen now for this guy with his arms in the air, as soon as you show the horizon beyond the physical geometric capabilities of a sphere, you can't have a physical geometric horizon. And that's precisely what the rebuttal is from their side, from the globe Earth side. We do not see the geometric horizon. Well, what is the geometric horizon, people? Earth curve! We don't see Earth curve! It's the end of the argument. Black Swan is ace. There's no other words for it.
It's refracted, though, even though that refraction could have never been established without establishing and measuring the geometry first. But
precisely. Refraction's
but they
bent,
can't seem to
deviated from
get
straight
that
line.
part through, you know?
Exactly. You've refracted lines deviated from straight, and to acquire an R value, you need to draw a tangent. That's a straight line to the physical tangent point edge. That's their horizon in their paradigm. Their horizon's a physical sphere edge. And Al-Biruni's deriving the R value by drawing a straight line for his geometry. Not refracted, not deviated from straight. That's not geometry. So when the rebuttal is, well, it's refracted, well, that's not geometric. And your globe Earth assertion comes with a geometric physical sphere edge for a horizon. It blocks boats and buildings, remember? Muppets? Yeah? When you turn your entire worldview side on and remove perspective? Why is the 10 foot missing? What do you mean 10 foot missing? It's 30 miles away. What about the angular relationship that changes with distance? 10 foot is always 10 foot at 1,000,000 miles or 30 miles. Well, that's why they do it, people, to remove perspective, when they assert that a physical geometric sphere edge horizon's blocking a certain feet and inches value of something in the distance. Well, that feet and inches value does not change with distance in their maths. It stays the same value. So they can remove perspective, because the angle definitely changes. Things get smaller when you get further away from them, until eventually the angle's so small that things can disappear bottom up. So when they assert that that's Earth curve getting in the way, they mean the geometric horizon, their physical sphere edge, and we've debunked it with the Black Swan. Game over, globe Earth. You can't beg the question of R and just say, well, we already know. No, Al Biruni thought he knew, but then he drew a straight line to something that doesn't exist.
Nathan, can I draw a comparison here based on what you said about Muppet Vision to how they say the sun is the exact size as the moon, but that's because it's 400 times further away, right?
That's all based on R, but go on.
No, I'm talking about what you were talking about, the actual size not changing over distance. If the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, then how does it change to be the same size as the moon and then still keep the Muppet Vision nonsense going?
Well, they don't. I've never seen them transpose the celestial observations in terms of their angular relationships between the sun and the moon at their varying distances in Muppet Vision. So I'm not following. I'm really sorry. Maybe someone else can fill me in if I'm just being
Keep it
stupid.
apart. The celestial and the terrestrial, they keep it apart. And they should, we should as well.
Well, let me explain what I'm trying to say. I don't know if I'm right, but I see like a little hole here in their argument. They're going to show us Muppet Vision and say a 10-foot sized object doesn't change with distance to the viewer because of the angular situation. Well, if it doesn't, then how come the sun is to you?
Yeah,
Can't have
Owen's
it
got
both
it.
ways.
Owen's already said they keep them separate. So when they ask you why doesn't the angular size of the sun change, well, suddenly we're talking about angular relationships. Well, when we talk about things disappearing into the distance, they don't ask why a certain angle has disappeared at the bottom. They ask you how many feet and inches have gone. And those feet and inches that they will use do not change with distance, whereas angular relationship would. So they keep them very separate, as Arwen's just said.
Yeah, but that's nonsense because and we've used plenty of examples here, that as you're driving on a flat road and you see a mountain in the distance, it looks very small until you get closer and closer to it, and it gets bigger and bigger. And from where you started, that little convenience store or grocery store blocked the whole view of the mountain when you stood in front of the grocery store. Then you go over there just at the base of the mountain, there's another grocery store, and the mountain's totally can't be blocked by it. I mean, what are they trying to say then?
Yeah, but if you draw that side on, you end up with the mountain being represented with its feet and inches value, and you looking at it with a line drawn between the two. And it doesn't matter what value you put on that line. Shout out to Rakia Life for the $100 super chat. Woo-hoo-hoo! Welcome back. No curve, you say. I agree. Wonder where it went. Maybe it's flat. Shocker! Yeah, it is flat, Dave Rakia Gafford. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, or Rakia Life, I should say. What are you showing us, Arwin? Is this relevant?
Well, we're getting a bucket of rain right now. Big one. Huge splashy drops.
That's
I
lovely.
don't know.
Thank you so much. Very British of you to mention the weather.
Yeah.
Well, so much for that bucket swinging around your head, not leaking.
That cloud. No, but it's nice, after the heat wave, I kind of appreciate a good bucket of water from the skies.
Yeah,
Well,
I like
I
all
wanna
the
bring-
thunder too. Did I mention all my amplifiers have blown up?
What? Really?
Yeah, all my amps have blown up.
Oh, shit. When did that happen?
Did it go fund me for it, Arwin? But in the
Oh.
meantime, literally yesterday, the only amp that has so far been at Old Faithful, it's the oldest amp. It used to actually reside in the Royal Opera House, so I just bought it second-hand. But even though it's second-hand and very old, identical to the other two that had gone pop recently, it also went pop last night. So I'll mention this in the pre-show. I won't reiterate it now, but I was talking about it in the pre-show. I turned on a movie for my kids, and suddenly the little cow that's talking isn't saying anything because the bloody centre channel amp's also gone pop. So I was just joking, saying, "Oh yeah, I really like Thunder 2," kind of jokingly implying that that's what's killed my amps. I'm sure it isn't.
Okay.
Anyway,
Weird.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson backtracks everything they said until he backtracked. He says you can't see Earth curvature even from 120,000 feet plus. Yet here on terrestrial, they say that's what's blocking the bottom of ships and buildings. Everything's a backtrack for these guys. They backpedal on everything.
yeah, it's double-speaking contradiction. In the one breath, they say you can't see the geometric horizon, and in the next breath, they'll say the geometric horizon's blocking boats and buildings. So they try and have their cake and eat it, but that's the only way you can work a fundamentalist religious assertion, that you're standing on a sphere. You're going to have to convolute it with doublespeak and just confuse the people who actually believe it just at surface level. Well, when they look into it and they come across somebody arguing about it, saying, well, we can't possibly have a physical geometric sphere edge, and they hear, well, we wouldn't expect to see the geometric horizon. Refraction's the thing that's actually taking place. We've got atmosphere. Obviously, you can't see geometry unless you remove all the atmosphere. Well, if that's not addressed, i.e., well, you need to derive it by doing geometry as Al-Biruni did, then at a cursory glance, somebody who's not a fundamentalist will come and go, yeah, there you go, there's an explanation. Refraction. I don't care to look into the fact that it's been debunked because geometry is not refracted, it's straight tangent lines. You know, their rebuttal is self-defeating. But like I say, because there's a rebuttal of sorts out there, how many times have you heard people who've definitely listened to this show and heard me say, no, you need a straight line to draw a tangent, as Al-Biruni is claimed to have done. He can't not be doing straight line geometry. He's deriving R. So definitely not refraction. He can't be accounting for it either, because then he's not doing geometry and can't derive R. So you've got an untenable model. Well, what will they come back with? Refraction. That's their rebuttal. Well, your rebuttal is self-defeating. Hello. Well, that's going to take a few more months for the fundies to get that. But anybody who, like I say, dips their toe in the water in the meantime, just hears refraction. If they're looking for confirmation bias, they'll get it. Because people are still parroting that crap, making videos about it. Don't they know what refraction is? Yeah, don't you know how to draw a tangent like Al-Biruni did to give you the R for you to base the refraction on? Your refraction's 7/6R. Terrestrial refraction's based in, obviously, a globe paradigm where they bend light at the rate of the radius. So you still need R, and you still need Al-Biruni to have a straight line to a physical horizon that blocks boats and buildings, while you tell us that it's refracted and we wouldn't expect to see it. So it's a self-defeating rebuttal from the globe side, leaving the argument untenable. Doesn't mean they won't parrot it. Refraction. All right, that doesn't save you from this demolishment of your religion.
Oh, by the
They've
way,
got-
well, wait, 10th man, I would like to correct about something you said earlier. Basically, white knighting the Globers in a detail. Yeah. Because when they say you can't, even when Neil deGrasse said that, you can't see the curvature from that high up, he doesn't really mean the bottom-up obstruction curvature that is claimed to be seen when you stand on the Earth. No, they specify that in the horizontal curve. Remember?
That's not what he
the
said.
curvature that you can't see at any height. It's not the bottom-up obstruction. They don't involve that. They compartmentalize those two curvature effects as well.
That's not what he said. Neil deGrasse Tyson is by far and away the best magician they have. Now, if you listen very carefully to what he says, he actually says, while he's slapping the ball he's exempling, you cannot see the curve from 1 inch above this beach ball, or whatever measurement he gives. And he slaps the beach ball! Well, is he lying? He's just given you an analogy with you as an ant on that beach ball, and then describes how you can't see the curve of the beach ball from 1 inch above it. Well, that's a physical spherical beach ball with a physical geometric sphere edge horizon for the ant when the ant's an inch above it. That's a very clever magic trick, because he's describing, by analogy, Earth as a sphere in the form of the beach ball that he slaps and tells you can't see the curve of the beach ball. Well, the beach ball's got a physical geometric sphere edge. Now, he's implying, where he's a very good magician, that is your horizon. Now, he doesn't explicitly say that, but that's what he's implying. Your horizon in your world, Fundy, listening to this as I slap a beach ball with a map of the world on it, your horizon's the same as the ant's horizon. The ant's horizon's a geometric physical sphere edge, therefore your horizon is the same as the sphere edge horizon I'm slapping. It's a very carefully constructed magic trick. It's a way of getting you to reify, both flat earthers and globe earthers, the horizon into an edge. So we as flatties, not me, say, well, you wouldn't see it curving. What do you mean you wouldn't see it curving? The physical edge? We haven't got a physical edge as a horizon. That's their assertion. But we fall into the trap as flatties, saying we wouldn't see it curving. Well, by implication, we're buying into their assertion that it's a physical edge. Geometric. It isn't. It's not a physical anything. Changes with the bloody weather. Certainly can't be blocking boats and buildings with its physicality if it changes with the weather. It's absurd. But it takes somebody on a panel show like this to point that out to people who might not have the inclination to think that way, when they're just told it's a physical sphere edge, and when we debunk it as a physical sphere edge, there's a refraction rebuttal that just eases the pain temporarily.
All right. Well, your explanation is excellent. You got straight to the core, but it doesn't really dispel what I said, that they have compartmentalized the supposed bottoms-up obstruction due to what they presume to be curvature. It's not, of course, it's perspective and all that. But yeah, with the horizon curve, which I guess should be there if the Earth actually was a ball. Because, yeah. But your point is even deeper than that. So,
well, let's
I
not
love all that
forget what he
aspect
said
of it.
afterwards.
The words
What
and
did he
their
say
meanings
afterwards?
when it's magic. And what Neil deGrasse Tyson does, he even looks like a magician with his sun and his moon on his waistcoat. He looks like a magician. He is a magician. But what is magic? Real magic is just words. Spells, spelling. That's what he's doing. Casting a little spell while he slaps his beach ball and tells you can't see the edge from an inch above it. That's a very carefully crafted magic spell. And the flat earthers lapped it up. Look, he's saying that stuff is flat. Yeah, is he? He's also describing the horizon as a physical edge that you're agreeing with when you pat him on the back and say, look, he's saying it's flat too. No, he isn't. He's describing a very carefully constructed magic trick of how to reify a physical sphere edge into the same physicality that he's got in his hand in the form of a blown-up beach ball. Ergo, you will reify the horizon into an edge that does or doesn't curve as a flat earther, or as a geometric physical sphere edge horizon as a globe head. Very clever magic trick. My hat is off to Neil deGrasse Tyson. You're a great magician, my friend.
Well, they
I
do the
agree.
same.
And then after that, he goes off to say how there are so many things. From what I remember, he said there are so many things that out in the universe for you to be impressed with. I don't want you to, be impressed with things that are not. In other words, he's trying to debunk this curvature that you see in this Felix Baumgartner footage and telling you, well, don't pay this any mind. This is not impressive. There are plenty of other things to look at in the universe. This is just a little add-on to the magic trick that I think he's doing right there. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Again, it's a way of taking the sphere edge horizon and saying, look, the sphere edge horizon, all part of the magic trick, isn't as bent as Felix Baumgartner's jump makes out. It's fisheye lenses, an argument that's formerly been used by flat earthers who are still buying into the trick of a physical sphere edge and how much it bends. So it's a very carefully constructed magic trick. And I'm sure there was plenty of flat earthers that were pissed off because, oh, well, we say it's fisheye. Yeah, but what are you talking about? You're all missing the point because you're describing an edge.
All right. They use the same tactic when it comes to Coriolis. They're arguing against it. They do this when they backpedal.
Or doublespeak, contradictions, like we discussed earlier. You're right. We don't see a sphere edge geometric horizon. Well, it's blocking boats and buildings today, according to my geometric maths. Same goes for Coriolis. We prove Earth spins because we've got a 15 degree an hour turn of the Earth underneath anything in an inertial reference frame that's not attached. So 15 degrees an hour of deviation is the claim that proves Earth spins. When you point out that, have we got 15 degrees an hour deviation under planes? They're not attached. No, we wouldn't expect to see deviation at 15 degrees an hour. Is their rebuttal? Literally, they'll argue against having 15 degrees an hour deviation and start describing things like the plane and how it moves when that's nothing to do with Coriolis, an observation of not actual deflection, 15 degrees an hour of it. So they'll doublespeak around not having deflection and why we wouldn't have deflection and why you're stupid for not understanding how we don't have deflection when the very claim that's supposed to be proving Earth spins is 15 degrees an hour deflection.
That's why they lose.
I think that's the most concisely I've ever summed up the Coriolis argument. It's only taken 2 years. About 2 years ago, for anyone who's a long-time watcher, that summary in discussion with a fundy could have taken up full-on 2 shows, several hours. You know what I mean? Two years to get to that point, I reckon.
Yeah,
good summary, though, by me. I'm only blowing my own trumpet here.
Well, Nathan, it has taken days and weeks, but that's why it's so succinct now and concise with it. You have to go through it.
Wow, I was so proud when, during the period that my PC was being repaired, getting a new power supply, I went into 24/7 after listening to Jedi absolutely obliterate an Aussie guy by just summarising what the Coriolis effect is, asking him to define it. It was epic. It was really, really ace. And I was just sitting there thinking, this is ace. The guy, he knows every angle of this argument like the back of his hand, enough to pummel this guy.
Yeah, Jedi is
ace.
pretty good. Shout out to Jedi.
We have a absence of ballers in Discord.
Been keeping everyone off mute. I don't think there's anybody I've missed.
I'm just wondering if there's any ballers who have mic issues, or can they come and please take the points we've made and argue them with us in a concise manner. Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to
I'll
the show,
drop if anybody wants to come.
After the show, they'll come on.
no, I know
I'll
what they
drop
do
if they
after the
want it.
show. I'm asking them to do it before, so instead of being chat warriors, be a real warrior. Come on the show.
There were a few people off mute, on mute, sorry, that I've just taken off mute.
All right, so if you're in Discord and you believe the Earth is a sphere, how do you have answers to the last 2 topics that we discussed? Come and share.
I could try parroting their arguments, but it's too hard to keep from laughing.
Do you stay with them after the show is gone and go one-on-one with them afterwards?
Yeah, I can sum up that. I can sum it up in a few words. I think they believe that the horizon is a function of geometry and atmospheric conditions. What they believe.
Johnny Glow.
Okay, where did they get the geometry?
Well, they don't care about that. They just want, they don't care about proving anything. That's what they keep saying to themselves.
So what they're saying is, we assume Earth is a sphere. That would be their it's a function of geometry statement. But Earth as a sphere has issues. So we apply our begging the question of a sphere with terrestrial refraction bending at the rate of the sphere I told you that we assume with my first statement. In other words, I'm going to beg the question, and then I'm going to beg the question with a refracted value based on my begging the question fallacy of a radius value. But my ultimate question still stands. Where'd you get the geometry in the first place?
Well, at that point, it usually breaks down to ad hominem. It's never pretty. They don't like to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, that was nicer than having a globe head go through that process for about 5 minutes rather than about 30 seconds. Thank you very much. That was quick.
Oh, and Coriolis effect. I've completely lost where they're going with that. It's like they've invented another world where they do have Coriolis effect, but they don't have it here. So I don't know.
It's because they're supposed to have it here, but they don't. So they have to explain to you how we don't have it, even though we're supposed to have it, but we don't.
How many
So that
reference?
could be very painful for them, I think. That's probably why they're spiraling the way they are.
Yeah, terrestrial
Chocolate.
Coriolis effect is that you don't have Coriolis effect.
Yeah.
Chocolate, how many reference frames do they have?
It's the assumption that we have Coriolis effect and the assertion of 15 degrees an hour deviation, unless you look at anything that would have it applied to it, like a drone or a helicopter or a hot air balloon. Then we don't have it because of reasons. Okay?
Yes.
So we're proving it with 15 degrees an hour deviation. Unless you look at anything that should have deviation, then you shouldn't have deviation. Isn't that obvious?
Yeah, but hold on.
Conservation of
With
momentum.
footballs and with bullets,
summed it up
there is
better.
Coriolis deviation, remember? But with those things, it does
Right,
work.
Neil
just
did the
that would
best.
mean there would
Hold
be
on,
two.
everyone,
That
hold
would
on.
mean-
Hold on. Neil, go ahead.
Conservation of momentum.
Perfect. So what you're going to do is you're going to assert that we've got a Coriolis deviation at 15 degrees an hour, and then tell me that we've got conservation of momentum negating a 15 degrees an hour deviation. That's right, isn't it, Neil?
That's
So not
correct.
15 degrees an hour deviation proving Earth spins, but conservation of angular or linear momentum not giving you 15 degrees an hour deviation proving Earth spins. Right, Neil?
That's correct.
Well, wouldn't that be a non-Coriolis, non-proof of Earth spinning? That's your rebuttal to tell
That's
me that we
correct.
don't have 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth spins underneath stuff? Oh, right. What a great rebuttal.
They're screwed both ways.
I remember from the chat, Sean Hawkins saying, quote, Coriolis effect is angular momentum, end quote.
Wow.
Told you. That's what they're going to say.
What?
Angular momentum?
I thought Coriolis effect was an apparent
Got a
deviation.
lot
It
of
is,
angular
Arwin,
momentum
yes.
going on in your eyes as you're seeing the Coriolis effect, huh? Because apparently you're seeing the Coriolis effect and suffering from conserving angular momentum at the same time. How the hell are you doing that?
Do they even know what Coriolis is? That's what do they even know? I
It's
don't
probably
think
the
they know.
force. It's because of the Coriolis force, which apparently is a thing, even though it's said it's not
not a
actually a
force.
force, but it's
Hold on.
still called a force.
Neil's on point again. Go ahead, Neil.
It's not a force. It's an apparent deviation.
No, the thing you asked before. Do they know what, sorry?
Yeah, do they even know what it is?
No, they don't.
Coriolis. I don't think they do.
No, and it's not their fault. Because if you wiki search Coriolis effect, you are presented with an abject pile of nonsense that contradicts itself in every second sentence. Now, there is a little GIF that describes non-inertial and inertial reference frames releasing a projectile, it travelling in a straight line, and you observing it from a rotating reference frame seeming to drift. Well, you can see that in the little GIF that I've got on Wiki. But every other reference is talking complete nonsense. They'll identify things like actual spin directions of hurricanes as being Coriolis, and it isn't. Or water going down a drain, which has an actual spin direction, when Coriolis is about not actual deflection because you're spinning underneath something that isn't spinning, not watching something with an actual spin direction. So that's the kind of nonsense that you'll be fed if you actually look into it and do your due diligence. But not many people will find a very simplistic explanation of a roundabout spinning and you observing something not spinning, seeming to look like it's moving when it isn't. That's what Coriolis actually is. But you won't find that in 3 sentences anywhere. It's just mixed up with loads of contradictory statements about water going down drains and hurricanes with their actual spin directions rather than you spinning underneath stuff. So it's very confusing for anybody who actually looks into Coriolis effect to get the simplistic explanation. So no, Neil, they don't know. And neither did I. It had to be pointed out to me. I thought I'd done my due diligence and looked into it, and I still didn't understand it. And that's probably the case for most people who will look at it and do research on it, because it's absolutely littered with confusing, convoluted, contradictory nonsense.
Like
Well, Nathan,
most
Your
of the
own
proofs.
discernment. If you read a citation or a reference about the Coriolis effect, and in the beginning it tells you, it actually describes it as an illusion. And then later on in that same article, they tell you how this illusion is apparently causing storms. Well, how the hell is an illusion causing anything?
Precisely. And with that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Yeah, I would say no. Remember they used to say that it was the toilet flushing that proved the Coriolis effect, that proved the Earth is spinning.
Yeah, nonsense. Unless you're spinning down the toilet, observing something seem to drift because you're spinning down a toilet, then it's sod all to do with Coriolis. The spin of water down a toilet is you observing an actual spin direction of water down a toilet. Whereas Coriolis is you spinning, looking at something only seem to move because you're spinning. There's definitely nothing to do with Coriolis. Oh, whoever's in their train station with their mic wide open. Roger.
Mic
Is
discipline.
anybody else hearing that?
Yeah, Roger. Whoever the hell Roger is. Anyway.
Did you hear my question? I think you were ending out the show, but the example they give, like with the merry-go-round, right? With the 2 kids sitting on each end and they throwing the ball. Wouldn't you only see that at the poles? That apparent deviation?
Maybe.
I mean,
we don't see it
that
anywhere, though.
Huh?
No, I mean, you could, on a spherical surface, you could have deflection in all sorts of different directions.
No, but I'm talking about that apparent deviation where it looks like it's curving one way from one plane.
Are
right?
you suggesting
hold on, let me just answer
that
him. No, you could have that at any point. Now, if you're on their presupposed equator at the exact line that you throw the ball at, obviously all that would happen is the Earth would turn underneath the ball.
Right.
But you wouldn't have a deflection in that one particular instance. If you're throwing the ball on the exact latitude line, then no, you wouldn't have any deflection. You just have the ball covering a much greater ground because the ground's travelling underneath the ball, rather than an apparent deflection because you're observing it seem to drift off in a different direction. But you've only got to turn 1 degree either way, and suddenly you're going to observe a not actual deflection, but the Earth turning underneath while you throw the ball at a different angle. So yes, there are those special circumstances where you would not see any deflection, and that would be correct to assert that. But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't see not actual drift. You'd see it all the time. You'd have to see it.
I get it.
Yeah, but that.
Well, I think what he's saying is, it wouldn't increase as you got further away from the poles. The deflection would actually get worse the further away from the poles you got.
Yeah, correct. It would. Because you've got 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, the Earth's spinning underneath something because you throw it away from you. So your drone takes off and drifts away from you at 1,000 miles an hour. Well, why is that happening? Well, it's actually just hovering. You're moving away from it as the Earth is claimed to deviate at 15 degrees an hour. The deflection, the not actual drift, is you moving under it, as they claim. But does that ever happen? Do you launch a drone at the equator and see it suddenly zip away from you? Not actual deflection, it's actually hovering, but you're flying away from it because your ground's spinning away from you at 15 degrees an hour, equating to 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. Well, no, of course you don't see that. But when you point that out to a fundy, they say, well, it's retaining angular velocity. What the fuck does that have to do with it drifting at 15 degrees an hour to prove Earth spins? Well, nothing, but I'm going to argue all day about how it shouldn't drift. How it's retaining the velocity, how I assume Earth spins and Earth and atmosphere spin together in defiance of a 15 degrees an hour deviation that's supposed to be proving we spin. We're not. There is no deflection. There is no drift. Earth isn't spinning underneath anything at 15 degrees an hour or 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. It's bullshit.
Well, was that question concerning that you would only notice it at the extreme north and south poles if it was a globe? Was that the assessment of that question?
Well, basically, yeah. So you got two kids on the merry-go-round, so you have this imaginary line in between them. So when the one kid throws the ball, it appears like it's curving, but actually what's happening is that other kid that the ball's being thrown to has moved. You know what I mean? So the kid throwing the ball, it looks like it took a 45-degree turn.
Yeah.
Because it's crossing that imaginary line, correct? And I that's what I was just saying, that to get that apparent 45-degree turn, wouldn't you only be able to see that at the pole?
No. That's what I'm saying. To describe it in the two-dimensional roundabout example and say that, well, you're by comparison at the centre of the roundabout when you stood on the North Pole and you throw it out from the North Pole, but you can describe not actual deflection at any point on the roundabout, again in 2 dimensions. So you've got the roundabout, well, if you're on the outside edge and you've got 2 kids, one between each section of the roundabout as it spins, you're still going to see deflection. It doesn't have to be thrown from the centre out. And the same applies to a spherical surface. You will see deflection almost anywhere that you throw it, at whatever rate the Earth is claimed to turn underneath. Obviously, we don't observe that in any shape, way or form. Therefore, we've not got Earth rotating underneath. And the rebuttal is to just tell us why we haven't got Earth rotating underneath as an argument for 3 hours.
Right.
Well, I was going to dovetail into then that other stupid argument they give about bullets. Well, if they're going to stick to what he said, then I guess the only place you could shoot your bullets for it to show it would be limited. So it doesn't make sense anyway.
South, yeah.
Which it doesn't happen with bullets, by the way.
That's all that's ever going to happen with Coriolis. You'll end up confused if you don't fully understand and appreciate what Coriolis is, arguing about how Earth and atmosphere travel together, and arguing about what the trajectory of the inertial reference frame will give you, if you're part of it, when in reality you're supposed to be describing what happens when you turn underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. That's their claim. But like I say, they'll argue all day long about how you don't have deviation and why you don't have deviation and why you wouldn't expect to see deviation when that's the claim. 15 degrees an hour deviation is what they're supposed to be showing. So they just argue why you shouldn't have it, because they don't. Same as Earth curve. They don't have Earth curve, so they'll argue all day about how we don't see a geometric horizon and why we don't.
Well, it's pretty much over when Neil deGrasse Tyson says the football went through the field goals and it was based on Earth turning 15 degrees an hour. That argument gets killed right there because it didn't. And then if they're going to say you can't see it, then why did he say you did see it?
Yeah, they just throw him under the bus. He's wrong. We shouldn't see it because... And then they argue all day about that. It's easy to just throw him under the bus, which they do.
Well, one of the best words you've ever used when finishing an argument is it's untenable. It is untenable. We would know if the Earth was moving at 15 degrees an hour.
Yeah, the assertion's untenable. That's why they have to argue about why we don't see deviation, with an assumption that Earth's spinning anyway. So it's back to the only claim they'll ever try and justify will be a begging the question fallacy. Well, we automatically assume Earth spins, but we also have a special pleading fallacy. Earth and atmosphere are bonded together. These unbonded gases are bonded and move with the Earth. So you don't see 15 degrees an hour deflection. Hold on, aren't we supposed to see that to prove it spins? Shh! No, we don't see it because... Well, aren't we supposed to be arguing about how we do see it? To prove it is spinning? No, I'm assuming it spins and atmosphere spins with it. So I've already got my assumption that it's spinning in my argument when I rebut how we don't have 15 degrees an hour deviation to prove it spins. Therefore I win, as a globie. No, you're just defying the claim that Neil deGrasse Tyson makes clear. Coriolis deviation at 15 degrees an hour. That's what he's supposed to have. Just nothing shows it. Helicopters don't show it, drones don't show it, planes don't show it, hot air balloons don't show it, nothing's showing it. But you'll have Neil deGrasse Tyson saying we do see it in a football. Why? Well, because you should see it if Earth's spinning. It just isn't.
I know what shows it. A gyroscope. Bob Nodell proved it.
Yeah, that's what they all cling to. Bob Nodell showed 15 degrees an hour of Earth turning under the gyroscope. Like it turns under an aeroplane and a drone and a hot air balloon. Oh, it doesn't? Why is that, you say? Because it's retaining velocity, so no 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotates underneath the gyro then. It's just not rotating underneath anything else, right? No, it's just not rotating, or we'd see 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth rotated underneath an aeroplane. We'd go, look at that, that aeroplane looks like it's curving. It's not. I'm just turning underneath it, shortening the flight time of the plane, because obviously where it's travelling to is coming towards it. And everyone standing on that surface watches the plane seem to curve. No, they don't, do they? And it doesn't get to its destination sooner with Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. No, that doesn't happen. No, your drone doesn't take off on the equator and zip away at 1,000 miles an hour because Earth's rotating underneath at 15 degrees an hour. It isn't. We don't have Coriolis deviation, but they'll tell us all day long about how we wouldn't expect to see it.
I guess it's sort of like the horizon, how we're not supposed to see that either, right?
Well, not the horizon. We definitely see the horizon, but they say we wouldn't expect to see their version of a geometric physical sphere edge horizon that they used to claim block boats and buildings. In rebuttal to a black swan making the model untenable, they say we wouldn't expect to see a physical geometric sphere edge horizon we used to call Earth curve and claim block boats and buildings in the distance with the maths of geometry. We wouldn't expect to see geometry. Earth curve, that would be.
Well, if you can't see Earth curve and there is no deviation, so Earth is not spinning, how did they ever settle on that we live on a sphere that's spinning?
They just made it up.
Precisely.
It's merely a philosophical way of viewing the stars, a way of conceptualizing their movements. That's all it is. And people have taken it just that one step too far and reified that philosophy into their worldview. And then people have put it on TV, got them to suspend disbelief in movies, told them that the sky is a vacuum, and they've all bitten. Well, they've all been duped. And half the time, most of them are convincing themselves that it's true. No, it isn't, but you've only got yourself to blame.
Indeed.
Let's not forget gas pressure out of container.
I feel stupid when I say that I used to think the Earth was a sphere. It's on me, it's my bad. I didn't look enough into it. Now I have. I know it isn't, and why it isn't. But I feel foolish for having not looked into it and told my niece and nephew that it was a sphere when describing the stars. This is what the stars are doing, I used to say, and described the heliocentric model to them. Well, why? Well, because that's what I believed was true. Because I hadn't looked into it, I was ignorant. Now I feel stupid, because my ignorance led me to assert total nonsense, like I knew what I was talking about, because I had a cursory glance at a philosophical model and reified it into an actual existence that I'd only ever seen in Hollywood movies.
Yeah, Globers are guilty of falling in love with a supermodel.
Supermodel? Boom boom!
A pseudo
Claudia
model.
Schiffer, the heliocentric model.
A pseudo supermodel. Yeah, now they just lack common sense and logic at this point, or just plain being deceitful to the audience that's listening to their arguments, or to themselves, even worse, lying to themselves. What a curse to be.
Well, it's got
that.
Go on, Neil.
It's got them so bad that they demand the model from us.
Yeah, that's part of another fallacy. That's part of a false dichotomy. Obviously, it's a reification fallacy. Models are pseudoscience. We don't live on a model. But, so they can hold up a false dichotomy fallacy. So let's have your model versus my model, so we can see who the victor is, and the victor is where we live. Therefore, if my sphere Earth model's better than your your flat Earth model, we live on a sphere. It's a false dichotomy. Also, a begging the question fallacy, assuming the sphere.
But everything works
funny,
on the
what's
model.
funny is
That's
I
what
pick
hear.
up on their language. They say, whatever they're postulating, and then it's followed by these words. This can only work on a globe. Well,
Yeah, they
Black
drop the
Swan,
begging the
just
question
proves your
fallacy
globe.
and right at the end. Yeah, that's often how they do it. Some of them, the more proficient debaters, will get it in early, almost immediately in some instances, whereas the less proficient will declare it at the end. They'll give their convoluted example, just so story, and then declare that can only work on a globe, begging the question.
And then they want you to prove how it works on a flat plane.
Right.
And wait a minute.
Well, that's
I've
that's
never
another
made the claim.
fallacy. That's a burden of proof reversal fallacy. I say the stars do this. If the Earth is a sphere, then the stars will rotate when I assume I'm travelling antipodal to the bottom edge of the sphere and watching the observed stars that are above my head in both instances, only for my assumption that I've travelled antipodal. However, you don't have an explanation for this, do you, Flat Earther? So now, having declared that I know the Earth's a sphere, with the begging the question fallacy and affirming the consequent, I'm going to demand that you provide a model of how you say those stars work on a flat plane. How can the southern hemisphere, begging the question, work on a plane? It can't, can it? You can't insert your presupposition of a sphere Earth antipodal that I've just done on a flat plane. So now justify the southern hemisphere observation that I begged the question about on a plane with my burden of proof reversal fallacy. Well, go on then. What's wrong with you, Flat Earther?
Yeah, they would have to prove we're on a sphere first.
Of course. Begging the question.
Yeah,
But
ball game's been over for a long time, but the more shows we do, the more concise your summaries are, and everybody's benefiting from it, Nathan.
The ball game. You had a pun and you didn't even know it.
I wasn't trying to pun.
You were punny nonetheless.
Exactly.
I was punning nonetheless. Okay.
The ball game is over.
The ball game is over. Don't get me started. I got a bunch of them on baseball. I won't.
Yeah. Yeah, the ballers are
So
taking
how
a
do
knee and
you-
think that is winning.
So how
They've
do
been
you
devastated.
explain the movement of the star at the south?
So, after detailing the reversal of the burden of proof, you're going to use it immediately, are you, Chikey?
No, I'm just asking. Do you have any explanation?
I don't
Chikey,
know.
I'll
I don't
answer
know.
that question for you.
I don't know.
Chikey.
There's all
The
sorts of
stars-
models.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know is the answer. There's all sorts of models, but we don't live on any of them. They're just ways of describing them. Philosophical musings, if you will.
Chikey, can I ask
Just
you a question?
describing.
Chikey, may I ask you a question?
Always.
Okay. The stars, the moon, the sun, the luminaries, do they rise from the east and set in the west? Do you see that happening?
Not exactly in the east.
Okay, approximate east, local east, east to west, pretty much, right? Trikey, cat's got your tongue or what? I mean, do they rise from the west and set in the east? Are you opposite, or are you going to agree that even your own side agrees that they rise from the east and set in the west? Come on.
Yes, I said they rise in the northeast or southeast, depend on the time of the year.
Yeah. No, I get it. Okay, so we're agreed. Okay, so since the Earth is not spinning, what's moving?
Sorry?
Since the Earth is not spinning, no 15 degrees on the Earth moving, what is moving at 15 degrees?
Why do you say the Earth is not spinning?
Oh my gosh, you've been on this debate show for a long time. You don't have Earth-based Coriolis.
You do what they put it on the
Oh God, we just went through this.
artillery charts for nothing.
Let him. Go ahead, Charky.
That's
We
what
do
you
have it.
did?
Go ahead.
Why?
Feel free. Detail how we do have it. Feel free. I'll stop him from interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, I asked, do they put them on the artillery charts for nothing, the Coriolis?
Is that your
That's
example
right.
of it? Is that your example?
You said there is no Coriolis, like you know.
Okay.
There's
Are
no
you asserting,
Earth-based
Charky?
Coriolis.
Hold on to everyone else. I just want to establish his claim. Just hold your horses. Right. Are you asserting that Earth does turn under bullets at 15 degrees an hour? Is that what you're asserting?
Yeah.
And it would also turn under drones, hot air balloons, helicopters, and aeroplanes. And if it turned under aeroplanes, it would reduce the flight time, Charky. We explained this earlier.
It does turn on the airplanes.
Mumbling, can you speak up?
I said it does turn on the airplane.
So that would reduce the flight times. If Earth turned under aeroplanes, then a flight from, say, Charlotte, North Carolina to LA, which takes about 4 to 4.5 hours, would take an hour and a half because Earth would be turning underneath it at 800 miles an hour. That's 15 degrees an hour rotation of the Earth underneath the plane. And Charlotte to LA does not take 1 hour and a half. It takes 4 to 4.5 hours regardless of the direction. So LA to Charlotte or Charlotte to LA, they're both about the same. It's not reduced when travelling west to LA to an hour and a half because Earth turned underneath it at 15 degrees an hour. That does not happen. But it would if it was turning under the bullet, because the bullet's left are claimed to be spinning non-inertial reference frame, and the bullet has entered an inertial reference frame, just like the plane would do. But it doesn't. We don't have reduced flight times, Charky.
But the Coriolis effect takes place when you fly south to north or north to south, not east to west.
No, we don't. We'd have reduced flight time. I've just explained this to you. When you're saying it only applies if you're travelling north?
Is that east to west, west to east flight?
Yeah, I've just explained it.
Well, I don't know. Shout out.
Trikey, what is the
I'm
Coriolis?
Are you
asking,
playing
is this
video games when you're in the panel?
is this west to east?
Is the Earth turning?
Is this west to east?
What the hell does that
flight?
mean? Is this?
Is
What's
west to
this?
east, east to
Is
west?
this? What's this? Be specific.
This flight path, is it east to west and west to east?
Yeah, pretty much.
So you don't observe the Coriolis.
No, it's not about... I'm not detailing Coriolis drift. I'm detailing the flight time being shortened. You see, for the guy on the ground watching that plane, to have Coriolis drift north to south, in your example, then Earth's got to be rotating under the plane to observe it seem to take a curved path. But that means Earth's turning under the plane to give it a perceived curved path from the ground. That's Coriolis effect. I'm not detailing it when I say, if we've got Coriolis effect, shut up! If we've got Coriolis effect, causing things to seem to drift from the ground, then Earth's turning underneath things, like planes. And that would shorten the flight times. Me detailing how the flight time shortened isn't Coriolis effect, but the observation of Coriolis effect is necessitated by us turning underneath the aeroplane. That's how you'd have Coriolis effect, and that would shorten flight times. The fact that Earth is claimed to turn under the plane, so it seems to drift, that bit's Coriolis. But the bit where the Earth's turning under the plane would shorten the flight time, and it does not. So Earth isn't turning under the plane. No 15 degrees an hour of Earth turning under any planes. Flight times are not shortened because Earth's turning underneath the plane at 15 degrees an hour. No Coriolis drift. Normally what happens here, Chaiki, is we're told how it's justified that we don't have drift. That's what normally happens. Trying to give you a helping hand. Do you want to justify how it's actually retaining velocity when Coriolis, the claim from a globe Earth perspective, is something we observe from the ground? Maybe try and take us into the inertial reference frame and talk about what the plane does? Maybe try that.
The Earth does not spin under the airplane.
Welcome to Flat Earth. Welcome to a non-spinning Earth. That's correct. We do not have Earth turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. That's right. That's what's claimed to be the proof of Earth spin, though.
Finish. I didn't finish. Let me finish the sentence.
You said Earth does not spin underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. The claim that Earth spins is supposed to be proven by Earth turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. You have defeated the claim that is supposed to be proving Earth spins, and you want me to let you babble on? You've just defeated the claim Earth has a Coriolis effect, you moron.
No, I haven't.
You just said Earth does not turn underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. That's the claim Earth has Coriolis effect. We're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour deviation, you complete moron. But we don't. We've proven it, and you agree. So welcome to non-rotating Earth, you clown.
Stage latitude. Did you mute me, Nathan?
What, while you talk through me pummeling you? While I was talking, I shut down your line, so you can't fucking interrupt me. You want to claim I'm muting you? When I'm talking, you won't be. So yeah, I'll shut down your fucking line while I talk. Did you ask as I opened your line and you were talking all the way through me whether or not I've muted your line? Yeah, because I was fucking talking. I know that you wanted to talk through me, but I prevent that from happening. Now, if I talk for 10 straight fucking minutes and I decide that I'm going to be talking on my show, you will not be interrupting me. But the fact that you haven't got a chance to talk over me because I've closed your line while I talk isn't going to be a chance for you to moan and bitch about why Nathan on his own fucking show isn't going to be interrupted by a fundy he is absolutely pummeling. You've declared we don't have 15 degrees an hour deviation. You're supposed to if you've got proof Earth spins. You haven't, therefore you haven't got proof Earth spins. Now you may speak.
Well, I didn't finish the sentence and you cut me out.
Suck my balls like I give a fuck what you got to do. I am raping the globe Earth rhetoric. You've agreed. No 15 degrees an hour deviation. You're going to tell all the Muppets in my comments section about how Bob didn't prove Earth spins with 15 degrees an hour of Earth turning underneath. You're going to tell them Muppets in the comments that they don't have 15 degrees an hour, Muppet, because that's what you're saying.
No, of course you do.
Oh, we do have 15 degrees an hour deviation as the Earth turns underneath an aeroplane, shortening a flight time.
No.
No. How do my balls taste? You're not muted, Fundy. You're just getting teabagged. Cat got your tongue. Not muted, Fundy, fuckwit. Yeah. Earth is not turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour at shortened flight times. You agreed. Then when I point out that that's the very thing that's supposed to be proving you spin, you say we do have it. And I say, oh, we do have Earth turning under planes, shortening flight times. Your answer, no. So where are you going to go now? While I smother you with my nuts, you fundy fuckwit globe-tard.
Well, since you cut me every sentence I say, I wouldn't go anywhere.
No, I take the words you say, which is Earth is not rotating underneath at 15 degrees an hour, the very thing supposed to be proving Earth spins, and I go, welcome to non-rotating Earth. But apparently there was more shit to follow, where you justify why we don't have 15 degrees an hour deviation, maybe? Is that what you needed? Cat got your tongue, not muted, Fundy fuckwit. Should I circle him to show he's just got nothing to say? Yeah, you've been teabagged, Chaiki. Your protestations and attempts to talk through me pummeling your religion and then moaning that you've been shut up while I'm talking won't wash. We don't have 15 degrees an hour. You said it yourself. But that's the thing that everyone thinks is proving Earth spins, you moron. No 15 degrees an hour, Chaiki. Well, what's proving Earth spin then? Oh, it isn't.
I haven't said that.
Yeah, but that's the claim that's supposed to be proving Earth spins regardless of what you think, you moron. You are but one man. Amidst a religion of a globe Earth with 15 degrees an hour deviation that you've told us does not happen. We know. There is no 15 degrees an hour deviation.
I did not say it.
Yes, you did, Chaiki. Chaiki, you came on a question.
No, I haven't.
He said, I did not say. Then he didn't finish his sentence. Somebody else took up the mic. And as soon as they did, he thought he'd talk through them. What a wanker. So, no, you said, I didn't say, and then you didn't continue that sentence. 10th man carried on the sentence because you didn't have any words to say because you're being pummeled. But what are you going to do? Moan as you talk through him? Should I point out that that's you muting 10th man? Shut up and
That's
sit down.
Chaiki. Don't speak full
No,
sentences.
he said I said it. I said I haven't. Simple.
You
Because you don't
did.
speak
Here, let
full
me remind you
sentences.
what you said. I asked you, are the stars moving or the Earth moving? And you said what?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Now he claims he's
So,
being muted.
Neil, I can't say a full sentence because I'm being
No,
muted.
no,
I
I
know
know
what
what
you
you're
No, he
doing.
fucking isn't. He's a liar. You lying sack of shit. No, you are not. You said two
I don't
words,
lie,
and then you
no.
stopped talking. Now you're muting me. So what's actually happening is you're talking through
Why
people
not?
as they,
You
like you're
mute
doing
me,
now.
I
He's
mute
talking through
you.
people as they talk
Problem.
and then claiming he's being muted because there's a requirement with fundamentalist globehead assholes to shut down whatever line they're going to be talking through while you talk because they will interrupt. Now, while that's happening and he's interrupting, he's going to cry foul that he's not getting an opportunity to talk. Now, he had a full opportunity to give his argument. Now, when he's got full open air and nobody talking, he'll say two words, wait for someone else to talk because he hasn't got a full sentence, and then claim foul again as he interrupts them. Your tactic's shite. Do you think after 3.5 years of doing this, I don't know how pathetic you fundies are when you're getting a pummeling about 15 degrees an hour deviation you don't have, that you're going to start moaning about how you're being muted while you talk through everybody? It's pathetic. You're a scummy weasel.
You admitted you mute me. You admitted for it.
Why can't you just admit that there's no movement of Earth?
He wants to
do
talk
not
about how
say
he's being
any of
shut
it.
down, how he's being censored. So Earth does turn under planes at 15 degrees an hour, like all the fundies in the comments claim, or not? No, it doesn't. That's what he's told us. It's recorded.
In the middle of my sentence, you.
I haven't
cut me
muted.
off
He's
and
just
you-
a lying shitbag now.
Chaiki,
I heard you.
you're changing
I
the
was sitting
subject.
in a meeting listening to you, and I heard you say it, Chaiki.
Just a liar.
So yeah.
Yeah, and then I was cut because I didn't.
Oh, right.
finish
Okay,
my
my
sentence.
bad. Yeah, you're right. You were cut
Okay,
off.
so go ahead, Chaiki.
Yeah, go ahead, Chaiki. Go ahead.
No, I won't.
No mumble. You're a fucktard who's been raped. So just sit down, shut up, and accept that your argument's been ripped to shreds. Not you haven't had a chance to speak. You've got nothing to say. All you've got to do is protest about how you're being shut down. And when you're given completely clear air, you mumble out some fuckwittery. You're a pathetic little weasel. And your globe earth rhetoric's dying here. It's not spinning, mate. No 15 degrees an hour. You said it yourself.
Well, he violated the law of non-contradiction because he said the opposite before saying that. He's holding two positions at one time. No wonder he's confused.
Indeed. And with that, I'll say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!